So the main focus of Unit 5 is array adapters and setting up those. We're going to start by looking at spinners and how spinners work. Spinners are kind of like drop-down buttons or drop-down lists in Android. They pull up a list of objects and you can do that. So we'll be looking at that, and then we'll look at list views and setting those up. So here's some links to resources here. Android developers has a good discussion of array adapters and what they do. So an array adapter will let us bridge the gap between our XML file and our array and map things from the view or from the array into the view and vice versa. Another nice view of this is this CodePath wiki version, and this shows a little view of this. So we have some Arraylist or some list out here that we have as our data source. We have some view that we have, that we're displaying this text in, or like a spinner or a list view or something like that. And then in between this will be our array adapter, and it will coordinate moving this data from one into here and mapping it onto here. We'll see if we can see some examples of that. So we're going to look at a couple different ways of setting that up. First, we're just going to look at a simple spinner with the array in XML. So I'm going to go into our code here, and in our strings.xml file, we're going to declare an array of strings, and this is a special format for strings. Now sometimes you'll see this in a separate array.xml file, but you can also have it in your strings.xml file. And since I already have that strings.xml file here, I'm just adding this. So we're declaring a string array, giving it some name, and we'll be using that name in a sec. And then we're specifying our different items, and then there's a string in each item. And so here's just the planets and defining our array. So we've got that set up. Now in our layout, we're going to create a spinner. And again, I can just drop a spinner in here to create that spinner. And then in the entries will specify that. Now remember, with strings now we're starting to use the @string / in the name of the string, and now for arrays we can say @array / and then planet array. This again has to match this name here. So this will map that array into the entries for this spinner. So that's the simplest way to set up a spinner. It doesn't require any Java coding or anything like that. Now another way of doing this, so this is the first way, and the second way is to declare the array list in Java and set up the array adapter in Java for that. So let's look at that. So in the second example, we're going to create a spinner, but again, we're not going to specify the entries or anything else in the XML file. Instead, we're going to look in our main activity and see how the spinner is set up here. So we're going to declare the spinner as a variable up here, and again, we have to use findViewById to tie it to the XML. Then we're going to declare an array, and here we're just going to create an array of strings. So I'm creating an array of strings here and adding, I'm using an array list, and I'm just adding colors to this array. So the array is called items here, and it's an array list of strings. And now I have to set up my array adapter. So I'm going to declare an array adapter for strings and give it some name. Item adapter is what I'm calling this. I'm going to say new array adapter of strings, and then specify this is the link to this activity. We're not using a custom layout, so there's a couple simple sample layouts, and one is to display a single item in a single line list. So there's this built-in layout, and later next one we'll look at using a custom layout, but this is a built-in layout of a single item. And then this is my array of items. So this is just saying we're going to display this array of items in this array adapter using this layout. You also should specify a drop-down view, and again, there's a default drop-down view layout that we can use for that. And then now we have to tie that adapter to our spinner. So remember, we declared our spinner variable and tied that into our XML file up here. Now we have to just say that spinner.set adapter and then the item adapter here, this array adapter we declared. So these three lines create the array adapter, set this default display, and then tie the spinner to this array adapter and get that to work. So let's look at this code real quick. Now before we run this in the emulator, I want to point out one more thing, is the events. So if we want to click and select an item in our spinner, we'll want some method run. And so this is how we declare a method to run. So again, we've got our spinner variable. And this is the one we're doing in Java, so I'm calling it spinner Java. And then we call this set on item selected listener. This is the method that is called when we select an item in our spinner. And again, we've got to provide some stuff, and we're now defining a listener, on item selected listener. So we're doing in class, an inline class here. And then in that class, we need two methods. We need an on item selected and an on nothing selected. Both of these have to be defined for this class. They're abstract methods, so we have to overwrite them. Generally, we don't do anything in on nothing selected, so that's often just blank, but it just needs to be here. And we put our code in the on item selected. So in this case, we're just in some text view here. I'm just printing some information about the spinner. Now, if I want to get access to things, like I can go to parent.get selected items, because this is just tied to a single selected item. So I can do parent.get selected item and then to string to display the selected items. And I can do this regardless of how I set it up. Here's the other spinner I set up using XML, and again I can define the same sort of listener for that. So let's look at these both in the emulator. So here's our emulator running, and here's our spinners we can click. So I can click on this and select a planet. And again, so this is the spinner that pops up, and it's scrollable if it doesn't all fit on the screen. And right now, when I click on it, it's just displaying that planet I select down here. Here's the one we did in Java with the colors. Again, I can select a color, and it's displaying that down here. Now, what if you want a more complicated display here, rather than just a set of simple strings? You wanted a more complicated. A lot of our displays are more complicated. A lot of stuff works this way, especially when we get to list views. You start thinking of the apps you use, anything from Facebook to Zillow to any of these apps that display a whole list of objects with pictures next to them. They'll use these custom methods. So we'll look at that. Here's a custom display. So here's a list of planets, but now besides displaying this planet, we're also displaying the distance to the planet and the diameter to that for that planet here. So we'll want to set this up and get this working. So let's look at this. So that for this third and more complicated custom array spinner adapter, we're going to have to create a couple more files. We're going to create a planet class that'll store information about a planet, the name, distance from sun, diameter, that sort of stuff. So that'll store information about a single planet. Then we're going to create a layout that will show how one row in our spinner or view or whatever, one row will be displayed. So the information about a single planet will be laid out here. Then we have to create what's called a custom array adapter. So we'll call ours a planet adapter. And what that'll do is it'll take a planet and the fields in a planet, and take a view and the text view, the text views and things like that in this layout and map them together. So which of these, which data from here will go into which parts of here. So this is what this custom planet adapter does. And then we're going to have to modify our main activity a little bit to generate this or to create this planet adapter, just like we did before when we created an array adapter and set that up. So let's look at some of this code. First, let's look at this planet.xml file. You can find a link to the XML file here. I'm going to go and look at it in Android here. So in layout, you can right click on layout and create a new layout object, new layout resource, and give it some name. I've done that and created a new layout. And here, let's zoom in a little bit more. So we're going to create a layout for a single row. And so here I'm using it starts with a linear view vertical, and then I've added a linear view horizontal. So the first text view is just the plant name will go here. Then the word distance, and then here's some text view for the distance. And I give it an ID there, and then the word diameter, and then text view plant diameter. So there are 3 text views here which I'll be modifying in my code. The planet text view planet name, text view planet distance, and text view planet diameter, and I'll fill in those values. But again, this is just a template for a single row, a layout, so that's why I called it planetrow.xml. So we've got that built. Now let's define our planet object and set that up. So I've got that built already here. This is a planet object. It's got a planet class, a name, a distance from the sun, and diameter. It has a constructor and some getters and setters for each of our objects, and also a toString method. If you haven't been setting up toString methods for all of your classes, you should start doing that now. Where we generally need them for every class like this we create. Now it might seem like a lot of work to set up this sort of class, but it's relatively easy. I'll just show you how to create one real quick. I'm just going to do a new Java class in case you haven't been using the ID here. I'm going to say planet recorded. Okay, so initially I'm just going to type in the variables I want. So I want a private string for the name of the planet. I want another private double for the diameter of the planet. And then I can fill out whatever ones I want. The other thing I had a private double for the distance from the sun. Check my spellings here. There. Okay, so I've got my local variables declared, and now I can have the computer generate, the IDE generate some of this code. So I can just go under generate here, right click and do generate, and have it generate a constructor. And I say I want all 3 of these parameter or local variables to be in the constructor, and I'll generate that. I can then right click on this and say generate getters or setters or both. I'm going to do both. And I'm going to do them for all 3 parameters. I'm going to highlight those, and I'll generate all the getters and setters. And then last thing I want to do is say generate, and let's do a toString method. And I'll put all that stuff in the toString method. And I'll generate a toString method. Eventually, you can redo this. So in mine, I redid the toString just to have the planet's name, and then in parentheses, the distance from the sun and the diameter values. So you can change that. But again, very quickly, you can have the IDE generate a lot of this kind of boilerplate stuff for a planet. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, so that's our planet object that we have in the, again, this is a link to some Java code for that. Now we're going to make our planet adapter here, and let's look at that. So we're going to declare a planet adapter class, and Now it's going to have to inherit from the array adapter. So we're going to say planet adapter extends array adapter, and we need a special, an array adapter is templated generic, so we have to say what. So we want an array adapter of planet. So that's why we built that object here. And inside here we're going to declare a list of type planet that we're going to store our array list. Now we're just declaring it as a list here. In some other places we'll declare it as an array list, but by the time it gets to the adapter it can just be a list at this point. A list is kind of more generic version of like an array list, right? So I need a constructor here, and again when I'm declaring this I can ask it to generate a constructor. And there's a couple of constructors to choose from based on the parent class, and we've chosen this one. So we've created that constructor, but then we had well, yeah, I think this is the exact same constructor that's out there. And we are then calling the parent class, the parent constructor also, and passing this information on to the parent constructor. But we're also keeping copies of it. One thing is we need this context, because we're going to use that later on to do stuff. And so we declare a variable called context, and we save the context that's coming in from this constructor into our local context. The other thing is this, our planets, our objects. Here it's just called objects. This is our list of planets. And so we declared our list of planets up here, planet list. So we're just going to say planet list is this objects here. Now the main method we need is a get view, and this will do our mapping for us. The parameters are fixed here, and we're actually not going to use these parameters, but we just need some parameters here of this type. So this is commonly here, and I guess the one thing we do need is the int, the position. This will be telling us in our list which position we'll be displaying or getting the view from. So let's say they clicked on the fourth planet, or they want to display the fourth planet. We're going to do that. So we're going to create a planet here, and then we already have our planet list that we got above. So we're going to say planet list dot get position. Again, planet list is an array or a list, so unlike an array where we do square brackets to get a position, we have to call the get method to get the planet at that position. So we'll call that. So that's our planet we're doing. Now we're going to declare a view. We've got to instantiate this blue view, and we have to use a kind of a factory, what's called an inflator, to create this. It's a pattern that's used a lot in this. So we declare an object that will let us create this object. So a layout inflator that we have, and we use our context to create that. So we tell it that we're going to need one of these layout inflators, and then once we have that layout inflator, we say inflator.inflate. And here is where we specify the layout row. Remember our layout row here? We specify that. So that's going to use that layout row to create this view. Okay, so now we have our planet and we have our view. Now we can start tying those two things together. So the first thing we need to do is, like in our view, this text field planet name, we want to display the name there. So we need to get a variable, a text view. We're going to TV name, and we cast it to text view. And usually we say just find view by ID. But we are not in the main activity here, so we can't do that. We need our view to do that. That's what's passed in. That's a link to our main activity, kind of. So we need to say view dot find view by ID, and then we can just say r.id dot text view planet. Now, since we've set this up, inflated this with this XML file, when we say r.id, we'll see those values here. Similarly, we want to display the distance here and the diameter here. So we'll declare a couple more text views for that. So again, we declare text views, or whatever objects we have in our layout, we do those. We use our view.findViewById by ID and create those. Now we can just do like tvname.setText to set the text of these different values. When we do that, we want to make sure we can use the planet object. So there are methods to get diameter, get distance and get string, get name, name return strings. The other ones return double. So we have to make sure that if we're returning doubles, we just have to do a toString to convert those back. Otherwise, if you don't do this, your program will crash. So if your app is crashing, one thing to watch, track down is where the error is happening, and it's often because you're not mapping the right type here. Okay, so that's our array adapter, remember. So this, and again, you can kind of see how it maps this planet row layout into this planet layout. So the last thing we want to do is go into the main activity and set things up there. So in our main activity, we are declaring an array of planets, an array list of planets here called planet list, and then we're just going to add the planets to that list. Here I've added a couple extra versions of Mars just to test something else out. But here we're adding each of the planets to it using the constructor. So that's the constructor. It needs the name, the distance from the sun, and diameter. So we're creating our planets there. And now we're going to go through and set up this array. Now remember, before we did this array adapter, we set things up this way. We follow similar things, just slightly different. And in fact, here's the code for if we're not using our own array adapter in our own view, but we want to use our own array adapter in our own view. So we declare an array adapter of planets. But now we don't say new array adapter, we say new planet adapter. So we're creating one of these planet adapters, and we're specifying our row layout. We also have to specify a text field, a text view in our row, in our view here, our row layout view. This is just used by the parent class, and it just seems to have to be around. Now we set our drop view, and again we're specifying our row view again here for that. Finally, we have our spinner, and we want to set the adapter to this planet adapter which we created. So that's our three things. And again, if we want to handle the clicks, we can declare this to handle the clicks. So this code will be in the main activity. We'll create the planet adapter, and then that creates a tie between our layout for a row and our planet that we want to display. We're going to look some more at that at this week's participation activity and assignment with list view, so you'll get more experience working with this.